Hello, Odd Job Doer here, and well, it's come to this. The humble commode, the toilet, le crapeur. And there's two things for this video, two things. One thing is this whole room here is going to get repainted. And because we're going for a professional job on this, we don't want to leave the space behind the toilet not painted like some people do. So, first part of this is going to be showing how you could get more professional paint job by just removing the top tank if you have a two-piece toilet like this to get behind and paint. The second part of this job is actually this whole toilet's going to go bye-bye, and in its place will be a brand new, never been sat on before by anyone, ToTo brand, ToTo. I don't know if it looks like that or not because there's like 10,000 model numbers here. It's going to be a ToTo toilet, which I'm sure I'll put some tags and stuff down below in case you have the exact same one, you can see how it's installed. So, step one on this is, making sure there's nothing in the bowl. And when I say nothing, I mean, brown stuff, whatever. So that's not too bad. Step two will be actually shutting off the water. And so, down here, there's that kind of valve. If you see that kind of valve, that's probably your friend, because those are, I think, quarter-turn valves, and they're a newer type of valve, and they usually don't leak in and out bad. So, let's kind of turn it like that, and it should be off. Step, I don't know, I lost count already. 3-ish. It's going to be to drain the back tank back here. So, we'll start by flushing. And this is one of those toilets you hold down. Goodbye, water. Alright. I'll shut that down. And kind of here, and this here usually lifts off. Might have a little bit of a splash to it, right? Got that lifted off. Put that down somewhere safe if you want to reuse it. And then inside this part here, look, it's nature's wonder. You can see there's still water. I don't know if you can see that or not. But this water actually is fairly clean down in here. But it looks like there's probably at least an inch. So, get yourself a towel, a sponge. I have a sponge, you see. And I'll just get down like so and soak it up in the bucket. And I'm going to continue this until we get this dried out pretty good. Which might take a while. Most of the water out from the inside the tank here. And now we're down here at the business part of the bottom part where we got this valve turned off. We have this part here. So we unscrew this from the fill valve. And the next one we're going to do here, which is sometimes a little tricky, clean up on aisle 4, is, you can see it, yeah, here we go. So right down there, there's this little bolt coming through. There, this bolt goes up through the tank. Now, this one here is already loose, and so I'm just going to back it on out. So I can learn how to spin it the right way. Here we go. So we have a nut there, and a washer, and that feels like it's it on that side. Now the other side is something likewise like that. Another bolt. And get out of there. So down here at the bottom you can see right there, the top of the bolt. Now, chances are these bolts can get rusty. They're usually a great big slotted screwdriver that uses them. And so we're going to take a look here and see if that's going to work. Let me get this all situated again. Right. Get out of there, you. Lens cap. So. It's right down there, you know, beneath that chain thing. And I got this screwed over here. So let's see if I can get in that groove at all. You know, I don't think so. I think there's too much rust and corrosion. So I'm going to go to the other side and see if I can get with a adjustable wrench. That comes in handy for this. Underneath that bolt, so I can loosen it and get it out. From there, a bolt, and I have that hose undone. So now I should just be able to gently rock this back and forth, pick it up, and put it somewhere else. In this case, I'll put it in the bathtub. Making sure I put it on its side where it's back, and so I don't damage the tub. Now then, ta-da! You can see that down there, there is a spot that has, I think the original paint must be that tan, and right there, right? And the next paint is probably that minty green color. The last paint is this white paint, so, or yeah, whatever, cotton. So it's been painted 3 times, right? Now that there leaves you ample room to paint around it. And as a tip, if you're painting over semi-gloss, definitely high gloss, but semi-gloss too, get yourself some sandpaper and run over the surface. Right, I'll do more sanding, but that's the gist of it. And then after you sand it all down, get yourself a wet sponge again and wipe it down, let that dry, and you should be ready to paint. Right? So I'll work on a little bit of that and continue to with this toilet in a minute. It's a little hard to tell, but that's clean now. Sanded it, wiped it all down the wall, and next what happened here is I touched that tan part. You know what? It's almost like it's kind of the drywall, but not kind of drywall. I don't know. It's like there's no texture to it. So before I paint over all that, I'm going to slap over some primer. Prime it over, let that dry, and then I'll be ready to slap on the paint color. Now then, if you were doing this just to paint, have a nice painted wall behind the toilet, that's what you'd do. And then after that dries probably, you'd come over and grab this top part here and put it back in basically reverse. Things you want to check though is one, this here is a kind of a rubber gasket right here, this red part. You might want to check to see if that still has some life to it, some pliability to it, because that's going to go in there and keep water from gushing out over your floor. The other thing is these bolts right there. Now, if we're going to reuse this, which we're not, but if we were, I'd take that nut off there and get a whole new bolt assembly at the hardware store, because like I said, the inside parts were rusted. So I would definitely replace the bolts on this. Maybe look for another rubber gasket thing too. But we don't have to worry about that. Instead, we'll go on to the new one, which you can see here, we've still got the bottom part there, and that's for good reason. If once this is lifted up, sewer gases could probably come in. I don't think there's a P-trap underneath there. The P-trap's usually built in the toilet itself, so sewer gases could come out and be stinky. Another thing you want to look for before you get a toilet is something called a rough end. And a rough end is basically from that bolt cover down there. Let's say from that bolt cover to the back wall. So, in other words, from here, because between these two bolts is a hole where waste goes down, and unmentionables. So I measured from that to the back wall, and yeah, it's about 12 inch. Usually they're 12 inches, maybe 10 inch rough ends. So I'm going to measure and make sure you got the right one. Alright, on to the next toilet. Next toilet. And so, like I said, the rough end measurement, this one here, you can go from that whole center to the back, and it's, you know, technically it's 11, but really 12 is what we're talking about because you want to sit away from the wall, not on the wall. And, there you go. Before you pull up your other toilet, you know, check your new one. Make sure no cracks or damages to them. Make sure you got the parts. So we got the toilet there. We got the tank over here. Tank! And the lid here. It goes on here. Now, we also have some miscellaneous parts. We'll get to in a little bit. Down here is another rubber gasket for the bottom of this tank. There's some bolts to hold the tank on, and there is some caps and stuff to hold this onto the floor. Now, one thing I'm not seeing here, and then I'll check it a little bit better, is a gasket that actually goes from the bottom of the toilet, this hole here, to the flange that we'll be seeing when we pull out the old toilet. You see the toilet flange down there. And, you know, toilets are heavy. But, in this case, I'm heavier. So, got that thing whipped around. And, see what we got there. See, it looks like that. Nice. Shiny. Has a deep cavity to it. But what it doesn't have is a toilet seat. And, some toilets might come with them, a lot of them don't come with them. That's kind of like a, you know, that's kind of like one of those expendable parts. So, off to the hardware store I'll be going. Look for a toilet seat. This one here looks like an elongated. If you check your manual, it's going to show you probably maybe a few different model numbers, at least one that should fit it just great. And, yeah, then we have this down here, the tank, which is fine, but I need a beeswax gasket and probably some new bolts to hunker this thing here down to the flange. So, off the hardware store. Now we're down here again. And what we got here is a cap. Right, down here is a plastic thing here. And usually if you have that, some don't, it just pulls right off. Right? And it feels like it has maybe an acorn nut for safety. So you can get unscrew that. And a little metal washer thing. Yeah. There's some brown stuff on there, but I think it's rust and or wax, hopefully. And the last but not least to bust this thing up, out, is right along the bottom here. Someone was good enough to have caulked it in with some silicone. And I got something like this right here, a little stiff scraper. Sometimes I get flexible ones, but it has a little chiseled into it, and it's kind of sharp. And so I just kind of, you know, working around the base. Oops, try not to gouge the linoleum too much. And if you really want to go at it, you might get a little hammer. Right, you can get it like so. And give it some hammer. But it looks like for the most part it's kind of yeah, it's kind of good to go, I think. So next part is to get some fool who's strong and just lift this thing away and carry it somewhere. Remind it that there's water in this bowl and it could leak. So I shall get on this. I don't think anyone really needs to see me lift it away. See the mysteries that are underneath the toilet. So here we have what lies beneath the toilet. And what we do now is we'll take our little scraper tool and we'll go ahead and scrape off any more of this silicone caulking down here, or grout that goes around. And this right here is the old flange, right? There's a wax. This here's waxy. It's not just dried up urine. In fact, it's not dried up at all. It's gooey and nasty. And somewhere between this flange and the bottom floor of this wax stuff is a what is it? It's a drain flange for the toilet, right? So I just kind of scoop this lovely stuff up. Try to make sure it doesn't go down the hole. I mean, it's not made to take this kind of a load. Maybe it is, I don't know. But, yeah. And there we go. Do I dare just grab it with my bare hand? Should have brought gloves. Yeah. In that case, comes like this. This comes up. Oh, look, there's actually two of them. So if it had, leaks or whatever, there. Now you see a lot more of the beast here. So I'm going to scrape and clean out all this wax and get these old nasty bolts out. And then I'm going to wash my hands and stuff with soap even. Okay, I don't know if you noticed before I clean it all shiny and sparkly, you can almost eat off of it, right? But the bolts that were coming up look like this here, see? Has the threads up there, and guess what? There's threads down below that are for wood. So these bolts that were here before went directly just in through the spot here on the flange and into the wooden subfloor. Now I got this here, gimmicky thing. I'll show it here. It's by Quirky, maker of fine toilet essential items. Easiest way to set a toilet. Well, we'll see. I don't care about easy. I just want something that's not going to leak gases or water. So let's turn to this here, and unfortunately I just threw that bolt away because I'm going to do a comparison. Some of these rings, wax rings, other rings, whatever, toilet rings, come with bolts. So here's a nice little slotted T-bolt. And this goes in here, like so, and just, still got some wax in there, but this goes right back in here. And yes, the T goes that way. I mean, it doesn't have to be a T, it can be round for all I care. But that bolt's in there, and then we got another one for the other side. Goes in a spot here, and goes around this way here. Now then, position them across from each other, and have a little play in there, because you need a little play. But that is it for the bolts now. Now, look at this gasket thing. Because it looks like it's, pretty neat stuff. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Let's see, clean the other stuff out, you do this. You gotta measure it. Because this here has a thick one, like so, rubber, and a thinner one, like this here. And then you have this here, which eventually, poop will go through this. Alright, so I'll get this set up, and before we get to that flange, we got these bolts here, and with these little plastic retainers, you see. What that does is slides down this bolt and you know, you kind of pull up on the bolt and push down this here, so it's going to hold it supposedly up and down, up in place. Alright, got that in. Now, the magic trick about these here is if your flange is up above the floor or below the floor, you need these, depending on what it is. And so because my flange is not more than ½ inch above the floor, they say go ahead and toss this thinner one and stick with the thicker one. So I will, you know, like this little root part down here, this concave part that goes down, and this part up here is the business end. So I'm going to put this back over it and tuck it down real nicely. And this whole thing goes over, has the holes here for the bolts to go through. So it goes over like so. And you just kind of float it over the hole. And by the way, I can feel air coming out, like a lot of air, because you have vent pipes up on your roof. And that goes to this system. And anyway, that's making magic heaven there. Now then, that there is done. Next step will be to bring in the new toilet and hopefully set it right on top of that. There's like a little hole there, you set it right on top of that. The roughing hole. So let me go grab that. So that's all set up and clean and all that stuff. And we've got the toilet nearby. So what comes next is someone's got to lift that toilet up and gauge it so the bottom hole that comes out of the toilet goes in the hole here, right? And just you know, set it down there straight. If you have a wax ring, those are a little bit more unforgiving. This one I could put it on, take it back off, put it back on. A wax ring is like a one-time use. Once it's back on, it's done for. So I'm gonna do a little straddling here and bring it up like this, right? And just kind of hopefully get it centered in here. Okay, doesn't feel like it's centered in there. You can feel underneath it maybe, or maybe tilt it. And you know what? I think it is. Oops. Or was. Alright, so it wants to kind of float like it's not being in their center. Sit outside like that. And you get a better look at the hole I'm talking about. This hole right, boop, there. You should go right to that red ring. Will it? Yeah, maybe it will. Let's do a little measuring. Right, this is just for neurotic people. Alright, measuring tape in hand. So, try to measure from the edge of this hole over, that's about 2 inches. Now, if I were to measure from this hole here, 2 inches, it looks like it's almost right at the far edge. So, if I were to do this here, that's about 3 inches. Well, that's about 3 inches, so it needs to go right in that red spot. And you know what? I think we almost had it. Okay, so it's more like 1 3/4. From here, 1 3/4. So what's the middle of that? So, attempt number 2. Do this all night if I have to. hope this is it. It does have a little rock to it, so it's not going to be stable at this point. I'm feeling it though. I'm going to call it. So then, what we do now is we'll go ahead and put the washer pieces on. And they gave us a few things in the bag. This bag here, see? And still got a few tricks from the other bag. See? Yeah. So then, I believe what we do with this is we have this plastic bob here. This is going to go on, and it looks like it has a lip on one side. So the lip's going to be on the top part, and it goes on like this. Then, from the other bag, the one where your T-bolts came from, the washer shall go on like that. Then, from that, we'll go on this here, nut, acorn nut kind of thing. And just thread it on. And get it all kind of in the center, and just I'm going to tilt it a little towards me, the toilet, and I snug it down by hand. Now this here will go on like that. When I say go on like that, I need some adjustments. So I'll get to the other side, and I'll put the same assemblies on and tighten it down by hand first. Give the whole thing a little shake, and I'll snug it down with a wrench just a little bit more. You don't want to tighten these too much because you don't want to break the porcelain, which you probably won't, but you might break the flange underneath. You don't want that either. Right, okay, so I got the bolts in, I kind of got a little shimmy. You want to make sure that you got, this thing here kind of straight, right here. And then, give it a little shake. And you might want to tighten them down a little bit more, but really, you don't want to tighten them too much. Now, for some reason, the manuals never talk about this, but what you want to do here is get your little gun out, right? Load up with some silicone caulking and run a bead of caulk right around the bottom there, a little bit underneath it, and then let that dry. Alright, so basically cut just a little bit of the tip off the old caulking gun. Usually I work with about maybe an 1/8 inch, a little less than 1/8 inch tip. And let's see if I can make this horrible. So, you want to go underneath, kind of as a buffer, and floor and side. And you know what? You can lay it on a little thick if you want to. Nice and smooth. And what this will do is, if it has rock, which it probably will, I mean this floor is pretty flat here, and it still has some rock to it. I'm just going to take that out. It's also, if you've ever been to someone's house and you had to go in there and use their bathroom, so you kind of ran, jumped on the toilet, and it almost slid out from underneath you, chances are it was not caulked. And having that extra wiggly room from not being caulked will have your toilet eventually, the bolts will back themselves out. And you don't want that, because then if you have the wax ring, you could real easily lose position there and gases can start coming in, or water maybe. Probably gases more than water. Okay, so that's about it. Now I'm going to make sure this here dries, overnight, whatever, before anyone uses the toilet, I'd say. Or whatever it says in your caulking gun. Yeah, and this right here, we'll go over this thing, but look at that. It doesn't want to. So I'm going to take a hacksaw and hack off some of this. Or something else. But same thing. Now, this is all in there. This is tight. This is not tight enough to keep it from really moving around. So I'm going to wait for this here to cure, and then we can hacksaw that. But let's do this one now. So we have the tank here upside down, and it says to put something, you know, softer underneath it, which on my floor is fine. If it's a tile floor or something hard, yeah, definitely put a carpet or something underneath it. Now this here hopefully is tightened at the factory. This right here is tightened too, but I want you to check this stuff and make sure it's, you know, tight, which that is. This right here gets this donut. See this here gasket, right? And so it goes over this nut, and you push it on down, and should seat down there and pretty much touch the bottom of the tank. If there's a little gap, that's fine. You can see it touches the inside rim here. This here is tight, and so then what we'll do here is we'll put it on its back to where you can't really see much, except for spin it around here a little bit. What we'll do is some stuff here. We got here a couple of golden nuts here, and we got this here, just plain old brass. And how this goes, I believe, is you take this brass thing here, you slap on this rubber washer, right? Maybe thread it on like it's screwed in there. And then you want to put this on the bottom of the tank. I think you saw before there was a couple holes there. Get on here. It's nice that it fits tight though. You don't want water leaking through this stuff, but it won't. Okay, you got this on like that. Then you feed it through the top of the tank here, and it should come out the bottom. Like so. Right? And now that's at the bottom. You take one of the metal washers, feed that on, and you take one of the golden nuts, and you'll put that on. And what you want to do here is have this bolt basically in the center of this hole it's coming out of. Okay. So I'll feed this on and hand tighten it down to start with. Whatever it takes to hand tighten it down. And then when you get it hand tightened, having it in the middle of that hole, I think they want you to snug it down with your wrench. Like a quarter turn. Quarter turn, maybe half turn even. Let's see, make sure it's in the middle there. You can get a nice snuggin'. This one here is one of those you don't want to be leaking. And you don't want to over tighten it because you definitely want to crack your tank. Okay, that seems tight. Now do this. Cinch up very carefully without holding the bottom parts, right? Don't grab this, don't grab that. And the bolts you just put in will go right into those two holes in the back. And that rubber grommet on the bottom goes in the big hole. Like so. You get in like that, and you want to make sure there's no gaps between the front or the back. You want it snug down there. And so let me adjust it here. Actually, before I adjust that, I'll go up top here. So the only adjustments on this thing here they're talking about is the handle. And yes, I noticed that the handle right there, that black nut, is a little bit loosey. So I want you to snug it down by hand. And then turn it, I think, a quarter turn with a wrench. Same thing, it's all made of plastic, so don't overstrength it here. There. That feels good. And now what we'll do is, yeah. Alright, so hopefully that nut down there, which is hard to see because it's dark, is tight. You know, with the rubber grommet in between. And then we'll drop it on down here to the bottom. Okay, just down here. We got this bowl here, you see? And it's supposed to sit on this ledge here a little bit, and also there's a spot in the back. Right back here. So, what we do here, have this bolt coming through. We'll feed it with a washer and the golden nut. And then we'll hand tighten it up, and the other side too, kind of rocking both sides back and forth a little bit. And since I'm down here right now, I'm going to tighten up this one here, the water line. Seriously. This might be a bad idea, but stretching it will go. Because they could have got another water line, but whatever. Okay, so this right here is going to help bring it down. Right, now I'll go to the other side and put a nut on this one too. And washer. And like I said, basically we'll just keep rocking this back and forth ever so smoothly as we tighten down the nuts back and forth until they're both real hand tighten. And I think that's all I'll need. I don't think I need to do a wrench on that, but you might. Remember, this is a tank. This is not a backrest. When you sit here, you don't need to lean against that, okay? Oh, such beauty. All right, so so that there's tightened over there. It should be levelish about. Time to flip on this water switch here and see what happens. I do a little bit of time to get the air out. And I might kick it a little bit higher here. You can see right now we've got water in the bottom part there. Water coming in there. And there's a little line right on that thing there that says max fill. It should shut off that, so we'll see what happens here. Bowl's filling up a little bit. Check for obvious leaks down here. Alright, that seems nice and dry. This is all dry, and it missed with this luckily. Yep, dry. Shouldn't be anything on the bottom yet. Shouldn't be much from this junction here either. It should be dry. Right. And we've got a filled tank. Now then, if I remember right, you pull this thing here. Okay, there's a little flush. I'll show that again here. This might be a two-stage flusher. I didn't read the whole manual, of course. Okay, still feels good and tight. Cuts off good. Okay, so look at the ball, just push this slightly down. Alright, so if you do number 1 in there, number uno, that should take it down. Now then, and it looks like only, drop half the water. Now we'll see what happens if you do a sit-down break. Push this all the way down. Yes. Great. Okay, so the testing time, that's pretty good. The lid just goes on top, sits on top of there. I'll get that. And next we'll get to working on them bolts down there to finish the pokey thing coming up here, which is not a friend to have. So just kind of gauge up, with the cap of how much you can cut down. So I'm thinking right about there. And even though you have it tight, when you start to cut, it might wibbly wobbly, might try to come loose. So I might tighten a little bit more after that. But I got this right here, a little helper. Alright, remember, we are protection, and I got that there taken care of. Give it a little dust off here. Get some of that brass, whatever metal that is. Should be brass. So it's not so corrosive, or can be corrosive, and it's probably hot. So I'm going to snug it up just a little bit more with the adjustable. And might actually snug it up a lot more. Seems like it's getting a little bit loose. Like I said though, this right here isn't enough to secure a toilet in today's world. Because even though you think you're tightening it down nice and tight, which you probably are, snug it up good, the more you tighten this, the more this washer pushes down and the more this plastic one just spreads out. So, put a cap on here, see it still fits. Tight. Right? Alright, and let me see, we got the bolts in, we got the water all going onto it. So I believe this here finishes up the toilet install. Yeah. Finished product. ToTo toilet stall. You can see also painted behind it. Nice. No missing paint behind the bowl. And yeah, I guess that's it. Oh, so one other thing. I guess lid-wise, this particular model didn't come with a lid. And since it's an imported model, that's going to be another video. So, odd job doer. Any questions or comments, leave them down below. And thanks for watching. Odd job doer, out.